The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more.
The thing that's important about the revision partnership is that by collaborating and everybody bringing content and an audience, it's a more sustainable program for them and for others. And they can differentiate versus competitors based on other things that they do. But education and training, because they're partnering with us, and we can partner with other companies, and it's not like a siloed, walled off thing, becomes just like something that feeds everybody.
Are you speeding the energy transition? Here at the Clean Power Hour, our hosts Tim Montague and John Weaver bring you the best in solar, batteries, and clean technologies every week. Want to go deeper into decarbonization? We do too. We're here to help you understand and command the commercial, residential, and utility solar, wind, and storage industries. So let's get to it. Together we can speed the energy transition.
Today on the Clean Power Hour, a learning platform for sustainability and the built environment. My guest today is Brian Hayden. He is the co-founder and managing partner of a platform called Heatspring, which many of you have probably heard of, but many of you have not. So please check out Heatspring. Full disclosure, I am a trainer on Heatspring, and it's been great getting to know Brian and his team there over the last couple of years. It is an amazing resource, though, for contractors, EPCs, developers, anybody who wants to learn about solar, batteries, HVAC, energy efficiency, the things we care about. So check it out, and check out all of our content at cleanpowerhour.com. I'm so grateful that you're here today listening. I do this for you twice a week, so thank you. And give us a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. That helps others find the show. Tell a friend. There are many people that don't know the Clean Power Hour exists either. So I'm not the only well-kept secret in the world. But Brian, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, and it's long overdue. And tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and how you had this crazy idea of creating Heatspring.
Thanks for having me, Tim. I just want to say thank you for creating Clean Power Hour, for taking the time to kind of help people learn about clean energy. And I appreciate the teaching you do through Heatspring and other places. And just appreciate all the work that you do to kind of move things forward. So thanks a lot. And thanks for having me.
You might be wondering, how do C&I solar PPAs get financed? For many, it remains a mystery. For others, there's Conductor. Conductor Solar helps hundreds of developers and EPCs find investors, close transactions, and collaborate effectively. With competitive bids from high-quality partners, Conductor makes sure you and your customers get the best PPA deal every time. Free to use for developers and EPCs? Visit conductor.solar today.
We started Heatspring in 2007. I was a grad student at Babson College. I founded the business with Duncan Miller. And we started because we were trying to become integrators of renewable energy systems. And we were going through a whole bunch of training to learn the skills needed to do that. And as we were sitting in these classes, we felt like the classes weren't very good that we were sitting in, and that we could maybe find and organize better classes. And then we also realized that the people we were sitting in class with, who were electricians, plumbers, engineers, architects, contractors, they were actually way better suited to do the work on the ground than we were. So we started organizing workshops, and we were kind of like the circus where we would go around the country with authors and instructors, put on certification classes. A lot of the early classes were around ground source heat pumps, and that's where our name comes from, Heatspring. But pretty quickly, it became obvious that solar was where most of the growth was happening. And so developed a solar program and went online with it in 2010. At that time, it was not really, people didn't really think you could do that, kind of like teach people to do solar online. But in the 24 years, or in the 14 years since then, so many pieces of technology have evolved, the market's evolved, the industry's grown tremendously. And it's like, we just are like running constantly to keep up with the growth of the industry. And the reason that I love my job is because I really like the people that do clean energy, the contractors, the EPCs, the salespeople, everybody involved. It's a really cool industry. The people are like just trying to do a good job, like they're normal. You can talk to them like normal people. Like, I just love the people in this industry. So that's what kind of like keeps us going.
Well, I didn't know that ground source heat pumps was the origin of Heatspring, but that makes perfect sense. And yeah, the earth is an amazing source of energy in so many ways. And I think that we humans have so much more in common than differences, and I wish we would focus on our commonalities and our common mission, which is to survive. So thank you for creating Heatspring. It is an amazing place. Truly, go there right now if you have not been to heatspring.com, because it is going to blow your mind. There are free courses, there are paid courses, there are certifications. If you're getting NABCEP certified, for example, you can do a huge amount of your coursework right there on Heatspring with the OGs like Sean White. And you can do it from the comfort of your living room, right? That's one of the wonderful things about the internet and remote learning is it truly makes it accessible to anyone with an internet connection. I'm curious, like, when did NABCEP come onto the scene for you? That's, kind of the bullseye for my audience is energy professionals, clean energy professionals. And the other stuff matters. The negawatts matter. Energy efficiency is very much part and parcel here. And I always encourage my audience to understand that and learn about that stuff as well. We're making the energy transition. Solar, wind, and batteries are now becoming the modern grid. And so organizations like NABCEP are part and parcel where they're certifying this workforce to have certain standards of basic knowledge and understanding of what they're doing. I myself am NABCEP certified PV technical sales. It's not easy. It's quite a process. But anyway, when did NABCEP kind of become a thing for Heatspring? And I guess I would love to hear your thoughts about the growth of the industry and how Heatspring has changed and will continue to evolve with the times, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I can think back to probably what Heatspring is today. The vision of that traces back to 2010, a conversation that I had with Dan Leary, who we both know. Dan is the co-founder of NABCEP, which is a big community solar asset owner EPC. And NABCEP started with just a couple guys, Dan and Will Thompson. And they took training, when they started hiring employees, they had some of those employees go through training with Heatspring. And Dan, at that time, I still remember the conversation, everything about it. He described NABCEP University. He said, I think that as we grow, we're going to need to bring in a lot of new people, and we're going to need to have a culture of learning, and people are going to have to develop and kind of grow in what they can do. And then we'll hire more people underneath them, and it'll be kind of this flywheel effect. And I thought that was a really cool North Star for us to think about, is how could we facilitate that for lots of companies? And so, the question then to Dan is well, what does that look like? And, one of those things is standards, and NABCEP's a part of that. And as early as 2010, we were kind of teaching to those job task analysis. and helping people work toward NABCEP certification. Definitely over the last 14 years, NextAmp has gone from like 5 people to like 500 people. I don't know the exact number, but it's hundreds of people.
Yeah.
And that's like a microcosm for what's happened throughout the industry. Is like what was once one crew in a van is now hundreds of people. And there are actually a lot of NextAmps out there. And so as a company goes through that type of a growth process, one, it's like, that's so cool to watch, because that's how more solar gets deployed. That's how the industry grows. That's how more jobs and careers are made. Like that to me is at the epicenter of what we're trying to unlock. So I love that story, and I love all the stories like it. And part of like what makes NextAmp University go is having standards and credentials to work toward. And NABCEP has established itself as being the standard in the solar industry. It's what everybody who wants to get a certification, in most cases, you don't have to get NABCEP certified. It's a voluntary credential, but people get it because it's good and it means something. So yeah, we've seen certifications and credentials be a big part of the growth of the industry over the last 14 years. Because if you're going to go learn something, like it's also nice to kind of like be able to have something to show for it, beyond the knowledge and the skill set, to be able to have something to communicate that to employers, to customers, to whoever. So NABCEP really plays an important role in the industry for sure.
Yep. And for those who don't know, NABCEP stands for North American Board Certified Energy Professional, or something close to that anyway.
North American Board of Certified Energy Practitioners.
Practitioner, that's it. I know I was messing up one of the words. Yeah, it's a little wonky, but anyway, it is the gold standard really here in North America for solar professionals anyway. And if you're an aspiring solar professional or a solar professional wanting to, move up in the ranks, so to speak, I highly encourage you to pursue NABCEP. It starts with the associates, and then there's all kinds of specializations, including PVIP, the installation professional, technical sales. I think there's a design associate now. There's certifications for code professionals, all kinds of NABCEP certifications. So that ecosystem is blossoming. I wanted to harken back to Dan Leary, though. That is so cool that you guys have known each other for so long. I did not know that. I knew that Dan had some courses on Heatspring. So if you want to learn about Dynawatts, Dan's current company, you can go on Heatspring and check out stuff about Dynawatts, which is a performance monitoring and analytics platform. And Dan has been a guest multiple times on the show. He's the co-founder of 3 companies: PanelClaw, the #1 rooftop racking company in America for flat roof; NextAmp, which has 520 employees according to Sales Navigator. So big solar company now, and now Dynawatts. So really storied solar professional, and I like to say one of my favorite solar people. But I'm curious if you could break down, Brian, in broad strokes for us, though, how the different segments of what you're covering break down, like how of your students or of your courses, roughly what percentage have something to do with solar or storage or solar and storage, and then some of the other trades like HVAC, you mentioned plumbing. I'm just curious, like in broad strokes, how does that break down?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely over the last 10 years, it's been solar leading the charge. I think last I looked, we have 105,000 people who've taken classes on the platform, and 80,000 are solar folks. Wow. So there's some overlap. Sometimes some companies will have more like full service offerings and do kind of both. But for the most part, it's like 80-20, 80% solar, 20% HVAC, building efficiency, and then storage is kind of like a subcomponent of the solar folks.
Very cool. Online learning, it's been around since the dawn of the internet in the late 90s, and it's kind of good, bad, ugly. There's all flavors. Some of these platforms are totally free. Some are pay strictly there's a paywall, that kind of thing. I like the hybrid approach that you've taken with Heatspring. There is a ton of knowledge that you can gain just by taking the free courses on Heatspring. And YouTube too. And Elon Musk is kind of famous for saying, look, you don't need a college degree anymore. You can get a PhD in whatever you want on YouTube. And to some extent, he's absolutely right. I'm a fan of higher education, but I think that higher education has gotten lost. And there's a disconnect between the economy, the real stuff going on, the built environment, and what happens in higher education. And I think that we need to fix that, and it will course correct and fix itself. In other words, it will implode in some manner, right, and transform. That's my hope. But anyway, it's a both and. Getting a degree is fine. It helps you hone certain skills. It forces you to learn how to focus and apply yourself and learn things and do certain skills or apply certain skills, and that's all well and good. But then there's also like the real world, the built environment that is designed, engineered, permitted, financed, constructed, project managed, et cetera, by all these professionals and tradespeople. And the trades are very, very front and center here, right? The people that turn wrenches and swing hammers and make electricity flow through the grid are extremely important, and they're underplayed to a great extent in our educational system, in our formal educational system. So I guess what I'm getting at here is that there is a very important role for platforms like Heatspring to play to introduce young people, mid-career and senior, the full spectrum, right? From, I would say, honestly, a 10-year-old can probably benefit from Heatspring. And there's material there for teenagers, definitely, and then on up. And so I just encourage our listeners to, shine a light on Heatspring, tell your friends and colleagues, because many people don't know about Heatspring. You do a great job with your partnership with NABCEP. You go to the NABCEP conference every year, but there's it's a big industry. There's 250,000+ people now in the solar industry alone, and touching all of those people is not easy. So what should our listeners know, though, Brian, I guess, about Heatspring from your perspective? These, the things that are front and center here are that, A, you, our listeners, have knowledge and experience that you could be sharing as an instructor on Heatspring. And B, you and your colleagues could be benefiting from the courses that are there on the platform today. So there's that, just the nuts and bolts of the platform. But what else should our listeners know about Heatspring, both current and future?
Yeah. Something that's worked really well for the last few years is we started, and it seems obvious, like every good idea always just kind of seems obvious in retrospect. But a few years ago, we started to focus on helping teams learn together. And in retrospect, that was, definitely the right move, because the way a lot of companies use Heatspring right now is they set up a free Teams account and they assign a bunch of free classes to people so that they can learn the basics of solar. There's, I think, 2/3 of the 267 courses that we offer are free. And so companies will put together little onboarding packages, and they'll set up like a company account, assign a bunch of free classes to all the new hires, and then maybe 6 months or a year down the road, they'll sign them up for some kind of a NABCEP class once they've kind of like got their feet under them and some time in the field, and you feel comfortable that they're going to stick around for a while. And so that at that point, maybe you make some kind of an investment. But the fact that you can set up a team account and assign free classes to people on your team, and there's literally zero cost to that, and you can do it in 10 minutes, that's the thing I think most people don't know that they should know.
So let's drill down a little bit on that. If I'm a manager of a team of project managers, for example, at a solar development or EPC company. What is the advantage of working in a team's account versus just letting the individuals do their thing and go at their own pace, et cetera, et cetera? How is it different?
Yeah. So as a manager of a department, say of project managers, you set up the team account and you can assign people to the courses that you think they should take. So I think that's one initial advantage, is just being able to kind of like be a little more prescriptive and not let people kind of meander around the site. So in that case, Andy Nice has a free career path course where he explains the career path of a project manager, what the project manager does. And so that would be the place to start, I think, there. And then the manager can then see who has gotten into the course, what they've done. If there are like quizzes or assessments, they can see what the kinds of scores they're getting, and they can kind of provide some accountability for people that may need it. We all need a little bit of accountability, at the gym, in school, whatever. And so the manager can provide that accountability.
Yeah, indeed. And there's a full spectrum. Some employees need that kind of oversight and encouragement, and some don't. Some are just going to go to town and tear it up and move forward and, be consumers of education. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chintpowersystems.com to find out more. So I'm always a little surprised how hard it can be to get people to pursue additional training. I come from a family where my dad was an educator. He was a professor at university. And so it's just kind of in my blood, I think, that education is very important. And I am a lifelong learner. I read a lot, mostly audiobooks now. Thank God for audiobooks. It allows me to access a lot more material than I would otherwise. And of course, podcasts and YouTube videos and Heatspring courses. But it's always surprising to me that there is a barrier to entry. And not everyone, when you just tell them about it, is going to go, oh, and they dive in, so to speak. What have you learned over the years about how do we get more people to avail themselves of these, many times, as you pointed out, free resources? Like a third of the coursework on Heatspring is available to the public free, which is completely amazing. How do we get more people on the platform?
Yeah. Well, one challenge with being an educator is that it's a low barrier to entry business. Like there's a lot of information out in the world. So that is, the cards are stacked against you from the start from that regard. And I think that to me, what can kind of like help cut through the noise, one is like consistency, just like you putting out your podcast 2 times a week, the fact that for the people who like it, for them to know that you're there and that they can come back and get something from you on a regular basis. I think I've seen that sort of like accrue over time for us doing this for 16 years. It's a lot easier for us to reach more people today than it was 16 years ago. And, we have to like continue to like earn that trust and keep putting out good stuff in order to kind of like grow that audience. So that's just like the grind of producing, of being consistent, of developing trust with people who learn from you. And then how do you go find new audiences? I think that's like definitely like a full-time job for me, trying to figure out where are the people who need this information and like how can I help them pay attention to the fact that it exists. And also timing plays a big factor in it, like it could be like the greatest thing that someone exactly needs, but if they're just not thinking along those lines at that moment, there's nothing you can say. And so like being very clear with our message when somebody is in a mode of paying attention and is like open to like developing a new way of learning, I think that's really important too. I think, the nice thing is there are more options today. Like, I think that a lot of people learn through YouTube and a lot of people learn through social media. And I think that that's like additive and like super cool. We've always kind of had to decide like, well, what are we going to hold on to tight? Like what is our core? And I think it's two things that kind of differentiate us versus like YouTube or anywhere else that you could go learn something. One is having a person, like an actual person to learn from. Not everybody cares about that, but I know for me and my like most important learning experiences, like having an actual instructor that I think is good and I enjoy and I can actually talk to really matters to me a lot. When I think back on all the best classes I ever had, I don't remember a whole lot of the actual content necessarily. What I remember is the relationship I had with the instructor. So that's always been important to us. And then the other thing too is certification, credentials. I see that that's a very important differentiator. And there's room for like learning a new tip or trick in 60 seconds on TikTok, but that's a very different experience from like an apprenticeship, a plumbing apprenticeship or an electrical apprenticeship, or, learning how to really become a solar designer and pass the NABCEP certification. So, just understanding the lane that we're in and doing a really good job in that lane has been the best we can do.
It's a big world. There are many opportunities and, but kind of the bottom line here is that we need, for example, 1 million new electricians in the United States to make the clean energy transition. That's a huge number. When you think of workforce development writ large and industries like solar, wind, and batteries that are just on fire, where is this going? What is the evolution of learning and education in the U.S. and what is your dream of the role that Heatspring can play in that?
Yeah, you say the 1 million electricians, and that reminds me of Revision Energy did a really fun, cool electricians will save the world marketing campaign. And it was kind of built around that statistic, like we need 1 million new electricians. And Revision's a great example of a company that is very close to like what I think is the future. Is like they embraced apprenticeships in a very serious and big way, even before like the IRA mandated it for utility scale projects. And so they have like all these apprenticeship programs, and they've been delivering these apprenticeship programs for years now. And we recently started to partner with them because they're a B Corp and they're like, they have a mission to kind of have an impact bigger than outside their walls. And one of the ways that they identified is they can take these apprenticeship programs that they developed and have been delivering for years. And that's the structure of those apprenticeship programs and the education that goes with it. And so we're partnering with them to start to open source a lot of that content so that other companies that are having to implement apprenticeships for the IRA, and because they want to, they can have more guidance and structure around what that should look like and get like a little bit of a head start, because Revision and others have kind of shared what they've learned and shared these best practices. So to me, the future is about like bringing down those walls and taking all the best information from wherever it resides, whether it's inside of a Revision Energy or inside the brain of Tim Montague or Sean White, and breaking down those walls and providing better access so that people can find it and learn it in a way that's useful to them. So I think collaboration and sort of partnerships like that, on the content side, and then on the learner side, more teams and organizations and building incentives into those organizations so that they can help their people grow faster. Those are the two kind of flywheels that we're trying to get going.
You've had conversations with some of my clients like GreenLink. The CEO, Austin Carr, is going to be on the show here in the next couple of weeks. So you, my listener, can look for that. Very interesting company in Northern Illinois that's doing all kinds of retrofitting, electrification, and solar and batteries. But
yeah, GreenLink has a big vision. I think they're a very cool company.
Yeah, and Austin is talking about building a GreenLink University for his staff and trainees. Trainee is the word that rolls off my tongue here, but we're talking about apprenticeships, basically, right? Bringing people from A to Z, where they're a noob in some fashion, to being a qualified installer, for example. But what is it about your partnership with Revision that other companies should be aware of, and how does this play out for your audience, so to speak, for users of Heatspring?
Yeah, I think that the thing that's so important about the Revision partnership is that I've noticed over the last 16 years that every company understands that training is important in some way. And what happens is that how important it is to the organization kind of like goes through cycles. So frequently we'll get a call and somebody will have just come out of a meeting and their boss said, like, we got to have an education program, or we got to have an apprenticeship program. And so then there's a whole bunch of energy around it. And then over time, like just running the business and delivering on projects and stuff like that starts to kind of like pull the energy away from training and education. So it's like this thing that it's like the tail on the dog. Like training and education very rarely is like leading for the organization, but it's always there and it's always important. So the thing that's important about the Revision partnership is that it makes, by collaborating and everybody bringing content and an audience, it's a more sustainable program for them and for others. And they can differentiate versus competitors based on other things that they do, like the quality of their craftsmanship, the way that they treat customers, financing products, or whatever they decide is their differentiator. But education and training, because they're partnering with us, and we can partner with other companies, and it's not like a siloed, walled off thing, becomes just like something that feeds everybody. So that would be great if we could play that role for more companies. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So my 80-20 rule question, in business, there's this rule that you'll get 80% of your revenue from 20% of your customers. And it's an incredibly robust rule of thumb. Sometimes it's 90-10, sometimes it's 70-30, but the way it plays out in society and in business generally on average is 80-20. And one of the take-homes for that is that you have to really do a great job serving that 20%, even though a majority of the contacts you're having in the world, the 80%, are a source of income, but they're largely a distraction, unless they have the potential to become part of the 20. But how does this play out for Heatspring? Is there an analogy there that resonates around 80-20?
Yeah, totally. Our 20% is solar companies with 50 to 300 employees.
There you go.
Mid-size solar companies that are in growth mode. They're in the bullseye of like where we're the best partner, and our platform is built for them, and we've been really successful with that cohort. I think that one of my goals for this year is we just rolled out a new piece of software for larger organizations to better reflect their needs, which are different from a mid-sized solar company. So it's my goal that we would kind of see that number of employees kind of like pick up in terms of like who we serve really well. And then we're always going to be excited for the scrappier, smaller companies too. But for them, they're essentially like taking a course as opposed to like setting up an account and looking like globally at the Teams program.
So what are the needs of a larger company compared to a medium-sized company?
The larger company has more infrastructure that we need to kind of play with. So they have an HR system. Many times they have an internal learning management system. They've got, multiple departments with different reporting structures that need to approve training instead of like one HR manager who's signing up, everybody in the company for classes. It's going to be the functional leader within all those departments. So it's just like, and then frequently it's like data integration and like software integration.
Yeah, makes sense. You might be wondering, how do C&I solar PPAs get financed? For many, it remains a mystery. For others, there's Conductor. Conductor Solar helps hundreds of developers and EPCs find investors, close transactions, and collaborate effectively. With competitive bids from high-quality partners, Conductor makes sure you and your customers get the best PPA deal every time. Free to use for developers and EPCs? Visit conductor.solar today. Cool. Well, I don't really have any other questions for you. I'm super grateful for you making time for the show. Check out all of our content, please, at cleanpowerhour.com. Give us a rating and a review. And at cleanpowerhour.com, you can go to the training tab and see the courses that I offer on solar sales, and C&I solar sales and development is the focus of my work on Heatspring. But Brian, what else should our listeners know, and where can they find you? You're going to the NABCEP conference, for example, in March in, I believe, Durham, North Carolina. Is that right?
Yeah, Raleigh, North Carolina, the NABCEP conference. We'll be there. We're doing a PV associate class there with Sean White. And then Wes Kennedy is going to be doing a solar plus storage essentials workshop, a 3-hour workshop. I think the thing to know is we're just a small company with really normal people working there. And that you can call us, email us, or do whatever, like whenever you want. We're really accessible. Yeah, I think just there can be like this kind of like distance and this sort of like feeling like you don't know who's behind the wall. But just know that we are and always will be a small company with normal people who want to do cool stuff. So if there's something that you have in mind and would like to kind of pitch a partnership or a class or something like that, I would genuinely like to hear from you.
Excellent. Well, check out heatspring.com, just like it sounds, heatspring.com, and reach out to Brian and his team there. I can also connect you if for whatever reason you can't connect through the website or through LinkedIn, which I would be very surprised if you weren't. But reach out to me on LinkedIn. I love connecting with my listeners. Thank you for being here. And let's grow solar and storage. I'm Tim Montague. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Hey, listeners. This is Tim. I want to give a shout out to all of you. I do this for you twice a week. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving us your time. I really appreciate you and what you're all about. You are part and parcel of the energy transition, whether you're an energy professional today or an aspiring energy professional. So thank you. I want to let you know that the Clean Power Hour has launched a listener survey, and it would mean so much to me if you would go to cleanpowerhour.com, click on the About Us link right there on the main navigation. That takes you to the About page, and you'll see a big graphic, Listener Survey. Just click on that graphic and it takes just a couple of minutes. If you fill out the survey, I will send you a lovely baseball cap with our logo on it. The other thing I want our listeners to know is that this podcast is made possible by corporate sponsors. We have Chin Power Systems, the leading three-phase string inverter manufacturer in North America. So check out CPS America. But we are very actively looking for additional support to make this show work. And you see here our media kit with all the sponsor benefits and statistics about the show. You know, we're dropping 2 episodes a week. We have now over 320,000 downloads on YouTube, and we're getting about 45,000 downloads per month. So this is a great way to bring your brand to our listeners, and our listeners are decision makers in clean energy. This includes project executives, engineers, finance, project management, and many other professionals who are making decisions about and developing, designing, installing, and making possible clean energy projects. So check out cleanpowerhour.com, both our listener survey on the About Us and our media kit, and become a sponsor today. Thank you so much. Let's grow solar and storage. The Clean Power Hour is brought to you by CPS America, the maker of North America's #1 three-phase string inverter, with over 6 gigawatts shipped in the U.S. The CPS America product lineup includes three-phase string inverters ranging from 25 to 275 kW. Their flagship inverter, the CPS 250-275, is designed to work with solar plants ranging from 2 megawatts to 2 gigawatts. The 250-275 pairs well with CPS America's exceptional data communication, controls, and energy storage solutions. Go to chinpowersystems.com to find out more.